Dodger fans, I hope you're all still alive with us right now. I had to take a shot before we came on just because that was too much. That was too much. But the Dodgers pull it out in the nail biter, 6-5. Damn, there's a lot to unpack on tonight after tonight's game. Um, before we go in and talk about some of the highlights, someone on Twitter actually asked something that I wanted to talk about, and that is why go Jansen to Joe Kelly in that situation? That's a great question. As you recall, Joe Kelly was given that deal a couple years or a year ago. For 3 years, 25 million. He was brought in just for these situations as well, and it's and real quick, if you're just joining us, sorry. Again, the Dodgers pull out a nail biter, 6-5. Uh, that was rough. As you heard me mention, if you're just joining us, I had to take a shot. I moved the bottle of whiskey out of the way because I'm not trying to look like that guy. But that was a rough game. But as we kind of go into it, as we start off, like I said, I want to answer this question that was asked on Twitter, like why go from Jansen to Kelly in that situation. And if you recall, they gave Kelly that contract a couple years ago. Excuse me, where the 3 years, 25 million, which is quite a bit for a reliever, especially in today's game. And the reason that I've kind of believed this all along was for these very situations. Kenley just was, he hit 94 at one point, but he just was missing his spots. He just wasn't needing to be where he needed to be, right? And so, be that as it may, your next option is either do I go to the young guys in the Victor Gonzalez, the Dustin Mays, the Tony Gonsolins, the Jake McGee's of the world, or do we go with a guy like Joe Kelly who you brought in for these very situations for the postseason to get you up and over these super stressful leverage situations? Jansen obviously put the Dodgers in a super precarious position with getting the bases loaded. Getting the runs in with one strike. Joe Kelly, struggled and he established the zone there, trying to get these guys to swing, and that's ultimately what he was trying to do. He was trying to stay low to get these guys to swing that are super, super notorious fastball swing guys, and if ultimately he did do his job in a way that was incredibly difficult, but at the end of the day, the reason that they took Kelly into that situation was because, again, do you necessarily want to go in that situation where you go up 2-0 in the series and obviously you win tomorrow and then it's an end of the series and not get those guys put in a situation where it could also affect them down the road? Absolutely. That's why you go Joe Kelly right there. Joe Kelly has been in that situation. He was in that situation in the World Series against the Dodgers. So that's why you go Kelly right there. The unfortunate thing here is Kenley has now, from the optics of it, shown that he is a bit of a liability, and it's unfortunate because the resume that he has, the everything that comes with him. He's been the guy, he's been the man, right? And now, unfortunately, the next storyline for the remainder of this series for sure is what's going to happen in that position as far as closing out games. Do you go, now Joe Kelly? Do you go, Brusdar Graterol? Do you go even Blake Trinan? They were talking about it on the broadcast up until that point. Where when they let Graterol in is okay, like you have these three arms that you can kind of jumble with. That's the bridge to end the game and close the game. So what do we do here? So Kenley again has shown that he's a bit of a liability, and it's unfortunate. The velocity's down. He was missing his spots. It was rough. It was really rough to watch, especially because this is Kenley Jansen that we're talking about. And the adrenaline, whether there's a crowd there or not, now we're in the postseason, right? Now we're talking postseason baseball. And at the end of the day, you're obviously going to go with whoever has the hottest hand going into that situation, especially with this lineup. The San Diego Padres, if I'm not mistaken, have the most comeback wins of any team in the majors this year. Obviously, this is the postseason, so that regular season stuff goes out the window. But be that as it may, you still have Tatis, you still have Eric Hosmer, you still have Will Myers. You have this lineup of bangers that can come out and do the thing. So props to Joe Kelly, because that's a daunting lineup to look down and just be like, okay, we're gonna do this, and he did. They went down. He took the bull by the horns, and he spiked some pitches. He was throwing great pitches. He was dominating that zone, at the bottom, and all the credit in the world to Austin Barnes for framing too. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people, don't really pay attention to, is the frame job that some catchers do. And for Austin to frame those pitches there at the bottom of the zone perfectly, Jeff Mathis, AJ Ellis-esque to get them there. But most importantly too, he was blocking these crazy spike pitches, because Joe Kelly throws as hard as anyone. And he prevented another, an error of any kind, a pass ball, wild pitch, etc., to get away and score another run. So all the props in the world to Austin Barnes, and he helped offensively too with getting on the bag. So all in all, great game by Austin. But Joe Kelly, like I'm obviously what happened in the regular season happened, and he had his struggles, his injuries, suspension, etc. But he proved that in this scenario, this is why the Dodgers brought him in. This is precisely why the Dodgers brought him here. But he was definitely trying to get them to swing and do the thing. But at the end of the day, we got the win, and he did his job. Kenley was struggling. Kenley was missing his spots, and at the end of the day, if Hosmer is going to go out there and have those bad at bats, that's fine. Like, I get that, but a part of the chess matchup is, if you're going to throw those balls, especially low in the zone, you're anticipating that they're going to chase. And, at the end of the day, if you hit your spot, then it is what it is. Backtracking a little bit for Kenley, where I feel bad for Kenley is obviously he's been the man. He's been the closer. He's been, the epitome of a professional, even with what's going on. And he got pulled in a postseason game in the 9th inning. I've heard a lot of, kind of like school of philosophy, or be that as it may, however you want to word it, the school of thought, whatever. For a guy like Kenley, who's a closer, who lives for that moment to be pulled, that's going to kill the ego. And someone on the comments said that who was sweating more, Jansen or Dodger fans. It sucks. No matter what, at the end of the day, it sucks, because Kenley is Kenley. Kenley is Kenley, and at the end of the day, he's got the rap, and obviously, he's had the historics of it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens even tomorrow. And tomorrow, obviously we don't even know who's going to start. It could be Dustin May, it could be Tony Gonsolin, could even be Julio Urias, for all we know. Obviously, we don't know who's going for the Padres either, because now they're in, they're obviously backed into the corner, in the sense of, okay, we have to pull off a small miracle by winning 3 in a row. And now the Dodgers offense is starting to click the way that everyone expected them to click. Obviously, the Dodgers pitching is doing its job for the most part, and until we get to the liability that is now the 9th inning. So all in all, it's going to be super interesting to see kind of how they juggle this. Brusdar Graterol, in my opinion, is the natural fit to be the closer moving forward. But right now, currently, obviously he's a part of the bridge that goes from whoever starts to your middle relief guy, setup guy, closer, in the traditional sense. And Joe Kelly's erratic. Let's be 100% honest. For anyone that's saying, oh well, he was throwing bad pitches, Joe Kelly's never been really necessarily known as a strike precision guy. Joe Kelly is, I throw 100 miles an hour, and either you're going to chase or you're not. That's, at the end of the day, that's Joe Kelly's MO. Whether it's when he was in Boston, anywhere else, even up until now, he's not known as that precision guy that's going to finesse throw, a strike or that rare, breaking ball that he throws. So at the end of the day, it's a super interesting conundrum as to where we are now, especially because it's the postseason. Typically this is not an issue with the Dodgers as far as, the link from starter, middle relief, setup, close. Everyone for the most part has kind of figured out what that plan kind of looks like for the Dodgers. Now, there's a lot of questions going into tomorrow as far as that situation goes. Obviously, if the Dodgers have a giant lead, they're going to feel a little better about it. But let's not forget the Dodgers had a 6-run lead tonight, or I'm sorry, they were up by a few runs, I should say. And the Padres came back, and here we are stressing out all drinking alcohol together. So it's going to be super interesting to see how this goes into tomorrow. Before we go into some of the stuff as far as the game goes, I want to talk about Manny Machado. If you want to see me get excited, this is one thing that I'm going to get excited about. What Manny Machado did, absolute garbage. And let me tell you why it's garbage. He hits a home run, bats flips, flexing like he's the Hulk, doing the thing, and he's all the things that you're apparently not supposed to do according to a guy like him that says that he goes out and plays the game the right way. But then Brusdar Graterol, throws that pitch. Obviously, Cody Bellinger does otherworldly things, and Cody, all the credit in the world. Cody, I thought that ball was gone. I literally, my hands were doing this bit as the ball is going into Cody's glove, and absolute garbage as far as Manny doing what he did. Because you know what, Manny, what you should have done in that situation, what any other guy that's played this game that talks about playing the game the right way, is you would have tipped your cap to Cody. Who gives a damn what Brusdar did? Let Brusdar be amped up, because this is the postseason, my guy, and you flip the bat literally when you hit a bomb. You can't have it both ways, man. Well, rather, it has to be both ways. At the end of the day, it's a two-way street, especially right now because it's the postseason. Look what's going on in the Marlins and Braves series. They're throwing at Acuna for the same damn thing. So that's garbage, man. So and mad props as well to Max Muncy for coming out of the dugout, saying what he said to that side, and having Brusdar's back. Because that's what you do if you want to play the game the right way. You have your guys back. At the end of the day, I get what Manny's trying to do. He's trying to have his guys back, but there's a right and a wrong way to go about it. And that was garbage. That is absolute garbage. And if you want this game to grow, which is what everyone wants to do, I've been playing this game since I was a kid. Obviously, I can't anymore because of my shoulder. But be that as it may, I want my kids to play. I want my kids' to play. So especially with this current generation of kids, if you want them to play, have fun. It's okay to talk a little trash. It's okay to have a little bit of fun. I wasn't even mad that you flipped your bat like you pretended to win the World Series in the NLDS just now. If you're going to play the game the right way but also want to be an ambassador for the game, don't do that. That's garbage. Absolute garbage. And I'm not even saying that as a Dodger fan. I'm saying that as a baseball fan. And I know we're in this weird conundrum of old school versus new school, and I'm kind of in the middle. And I'm definitely more of a traditionalist. You throw at my guy, I'll throw at your guy, and you can't complain. That's kind of how I function as far as the game goes. But that's absolute garbage. Brusdar going out and doing what he did is a little over the top. Maybe. It's not something I necessarily would do. But at the end of the day, he had every right to celebrate because of how that went down. And on top of that, Bellinger had all the stuff, aside from that, Bellinger had the catch so far of the year. He saves a run. It's a robbery off of a superstar in Fernando Tatis Jr. that, for the most part, if it's anyone else that isn't Cody Bellinger or Mike Trout in center field, that's a home run. All the props in the world to Belly for catching that ball. And that's why Manny Machado should have tipped his cap, shouldn't have said a damn word and walked into the dugout. At the end of the day, that's what it should have been. End of story. So all the credit in the world to Cody for doing what he did. That was a fantastic catch that that it's going to be talked about for a long time. And like I said on Twitter, back up the Brinks truck and give that dude whatever he needs in money. Just make it happen. Because even though he's having a little bit of a slow year, he's too good for this to just be a thing going forward. Especially if you've watched the game, of course, which I hope you did. That home run, dude hit it off of his knee. That's in that gigantic stadium. That's preposterous power. So Cody Bellinger just balling out, like, hey Cody, do you play ball, go do the thing, and hopefully that issue with Machado doesn't stem over into tomorrow. Machado's kind of known to be a little, shall we say, petty. As we've seen historically with the Baltimore Orioles and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think it's going to carry over into tomorrow because it is a decisive game. But you know what? If they're down 8-0, could they do something? Maybe. I hope they don't, because again, if we're talking about growing the game, that's not how you do it. That's not how you become an ambassador of the game. So again, great. All the props in the world to Belly, Brewstar. If you want to throw your cap again after something like that, do it. As a matter of fact, you should have gone and picked up the hat and thrown it again. Mad respect for you blowing a kiss to Manny, because that was garbage. And again, mad props to that dugout for the Dodgers coming out, defending Brewstar, and doing the thing. Because again, what Manny should have done in that situation, you take off the hat, the helmet, you tip it. I don't know if Tatis did that because obviously there wasn't a camera on him, but I would hope that's what Tatis did, because he should understand how ridiculous of a play that was. So let me get off my soapbox real quick and we'll get back to the game. Because I know, again, some of you don't necessarily and won't agree with me on that end of it. But again, I'm in the middle of traditionalist and kind of this new era, because I do want to see this game continue to grow. I do want to see this younger generation enjoy the game. But if we continue to do these stupid, old school rules, then at the end of the day, it's not going to grow. And again, the rich irony here is I was around Cody's dad, Clay, in clubhouses, when I first worked in the game. Clay is as old school as they come. He definitely is. He's a roughneck, a grinder. But he also understood that you have to have fun. And if you don't have fun, then what's the point? And having been around Cody as a kid, that's all he would try to emphasize with him is, hey, it's a game. Have fun. And that's what's important here. It's if we want the game to grow, that's what we have to do. So again, I'm going to get off my proverbial soapbox and going back to the game. Clayton Kershaw. I said yesterday that Clayton was going to drop the hammer tonight, and for the most part he did. He got in that jam and kind of did the Walker Buehler thing where he had to grind out a couple at bats. Obviously he ran into the issue with Hosmer and Machado hitting the aforementioned home run by Machado and Eric Hosmer back to back. But all in all, an efficient game by Clayton. He was hitting his spots the way that you expected Clayton Kershaw to hit his spots. I saw on Twitter someone talking about, oh, this is postseason Kershaw. Personally, because of this being the postseason in a weird pandemic season, I'm actually not even calling this postseason Kershaw. I'm calling this midseason form Kershaw, because in theory we would be in the middle of a regular season, right? With the amount of games right now. So this is when Kershaw is locked in and doing the thing. And one way to tell that Kershaw is locked in is Kershaw is super jiggly in the zone in the dugout. That's where he was at tonight. That's midseason Kershaw. That's the Kershaw that we all need to have if we want to advance to the NLCS and then to the World Series. And with how efficient Kershaw was, it shows you that he's in that groove, and that's the groove that Kershaw wants to be in, right? Kershaw, he's a creature of habit and then some. And for Kershaw to be where he's at right now, even giving up those 2 home runs, I'm okay with it, in part because it's the San Diego Padres. They have a preposterous offense. That ball that Hosmer hit, not a whole lot you can do about that. It's just one of those that was just kind of in his wheelhouse. Machado, the Machado one, most guys that don't have that kind of power probably don't hit that home run. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it didn't phase him. It didn't get to him. He continue to grind out kind of like how Walker did yesterday. And, he was able to finish it out strong with that pop out and get it going, right? At the end of the day, Clayton, I think right now is exactly where he wants to be. Obviously, the Dodgers as a whole, they're exactly where they want to be, up 2-0, forcing the Padres to, go deep into their bullpen, grinding out at bats, being patient, really making them work for those strikes, making them work in those at bats. Kike Hernandez, when he had that at bat in the eighth, he grinded, and that's the Dodgers MO. You grind and you grind and you grind, and that's what's going to drive these these bullpens that they're going to be facing, especially this Padres one that's currently, if you really want to be honest, depleted, because they've had to go so deep into their bullpens for the last two games because of Clevenger getting hurt, yesterday, and then today, Zach Davies, for the most part, he was pretty efficient, but he, they still had to get to that bullpen, relatively early, especially for postseason baseball. So at the end of the day, the Dodgers are doing what they need to do, and truthfully, they're doing what they're supposed to do. The nail biter, I mean, obviously that's a part of postseason baseball too, if we're 100% honest, but it's one of those things where if the Dodgers continue to grind out, the way that they've been continuing to grind and work those bullpens over the way they're working them over, they're going to have success. They're going to get these W's, and here we are, up 2-0 in a division series where if they win tomorrow, we look forward to the NLCS. So, big ups to Cody Bellinger. I mean, play of the game. Corey, even though he only went 1 for 4 on that solo home run, that was a bomb. That 407 at a Globe Life looks way bigger than 407. That looks like 430, 440. That's a gigantic bomb. But I mean, with Cody doing what he did today, not only do I think, obviously it took all the momentum away from the Padres, but I think it's going to help Cody going forward because, as you know, he's been cold. This is obviously his first home run of the postseason, and he hasn't done necessarily Cody things that we all kind of expect, especially after last year. I think today is kind of that way to get that okay, this is how good I am. And a lot of guys, talk about a lot of it being in psyche, a lot of it being, 90% psychological, 10%, the rest of it. And I think that's a huge part of it. David Ortiz yesterday kind of talked about it with Mookie Betts as far as, what guys like Cody and Max have to do. And they just have to remind themselves that they are that good, that they're here at the show level, and this is what they need to be doing. And I think Cody had that moment tonight where he's reminding himself, I am this good. I can talk the talk and I can walk the walk, and it's less rock, more talk. And he went out and he did it. And big props to him to have that turnaround and do what he's doing. Corey Seager, for the most part, is still having a pretty great series too. Still swinging the bat, and he's got that preposterously smooth swing, doing what he's doing. Overall, even though they ended up having to grind it out, and it took a little bit as to what's going on, they got the W, even with this kind of this liability type situation in the ninth now. But the Dodgers are exactly where they want to be, and so they move on to tomorrow, because that's the thing, is they take it one game at a time in the postseason. Now we're going to figure out tomorrow. So with that said, as we look forward to tomorrow, we have no idea who's pitching. I have not a damn clue who's pitching. No one really does either. No one's shown their hand. If I were to take a wild guess as to who's pitching, if I were just to kind of throw a dart at the board, I've been saying Tony Gonsolin. It's between him and Dustin. I'm going to go Tony, only because of the amount of time as far as rest goes that he's had. And, he's had relatively, good success at Globe Life, but also against the Padres. So if I were to kind of put my money on anyone, it would be Tony. But, truth be told, it could be Dustin. It could be Julio. It could be, again, Tony. They could even surprise everyone and go full bullpen day, like how they did, a couple days ago when they started a Brusdar Graterol. So I don't think that will happen as far as, starting Brusdar. But, tomorrow is going to be super interesting to see, especially with the Padres, because the Padres, and that's one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is the Padres. Obviously, they now know, oh, okay, we have to, kind of get a small miracle together in order to beat this Dodgers team that we know is good. We have to get a small miracle together to kind of grind through this Dodgers bullpen and rotation because, they have dogs in their rotation. They can, hey, next guy up, it's you. Obviously, when they get to the ninth, if the game is close now, that's where they know, okay, what are we going to do here? How are we going to get over this hump, especially when it's a one-run game? If we can get the bases loaded against these guys in the ninth, what are we going to do here? So that's where it's going to be super interesting as far as that chess game goes tomorrow, as far as what the Dodgers do. Now, again, it's super possible that the Dodgers might go out and drop the hammer, get 8 runs in the first 5, and it stays that way, and they just kind of cruise at the end. But you can't count out these Padres, who, again, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the stat in front of me, so I apologize. But I believe they have the most come from behind wins this entire season. I know I said a minute ago that the postseason stuff goes out the window, and it for sure does. Or I'm sorry, regular season stuff goes out the window, and it does. But at the end of the day, this team is still good. They still have Eric Hosmer. They still have Will Myers. They still have Fernando Tatis. They still have Austin Nola. Cronenworth was grinding out those at bats today. They can still. Tommy Pham can hit. They still have a lineup of killers. Obviously, when you look at the two and you compare the Dodgers to the Padres, is it apples to oranges? To a certain degree, yeah. But they still have their killers and the Dodgers have their killers, right? So that's where it's going to be super interesting. It's, like I said, especially if you get into the ninth. And, oh, no, it's Kenley again. What are we going to do here? And then again, for all we know, they did talk about going into the series. Dave had said that, they are open to not necessarily using Kenley exclusively in the ninth inning. Someone had texted me and said that what if they, maybe they should start using Kenley in the 6th. After tonight, that's super possible. I just don't know if you necessarily want to do that to mess with the guy's psyche that has been programmed to be a closer for the majority of their career. So it's going to be super interesting tomorrow. Dustin May is another candidate to close out a game. He has the stuff as far as that goes. He has the velocity, and we don't, no one's questioning any of that as far as that goes. He has the grit. And again, don't have to worry about that. But if I were to guess, if I were just to ballpark it, tomorrow Tony goes, and hopefully Tony gets 5 innings as far as everything is concerned. He gets 5. I think they kind of do what they did tonight, where they go to Blake, Trinan, maybe Jake McGee since Brewstar threw today, and if they have to use him in the situation, Brewstar. I don't know Joe Kelly's availability as far as back-to-backs, but since it's a clinching game, I'm pretty sure it's all hands on deck, and from there, it's kind of anyone's guess when you get to the ninth if it's a close game, unfortunately, and that's the only kind of precarious position that the Dodgers are currently in is what do we do in the ninth, and that's something that is a serious concern, especially if you're going to win the World Series, because I mean after this round, whoever they get out of the Mariners or the Marlins or the Braves, they all have their killers too. So it's one of those things where even looking ahead, which obviously you don't necessarily want to do, but you have to if you clinch tomorrow, of course, is what do you do in that night? What are we going to do here? So it's going to be an interesting, the next few days. Obviously tomorrow will be super interesting. Again, I'm expecting Tony to go. As far as the Padres go, if I were to take a guess right now, as far as who the Padres are gonna throw out there tomorrow, I mean, Paddock is the only natural fit that would make sense for the Padres. If they wanted to go traditional, starter and the rest of it, that would be my guess. I don't know if I'd be comfortable putting money on that because obviously they're doing their all hands on deck situation as well. But if I were to put money on it, it's Paddock and Gonsolin, and the Dodgers would, I think would win that game. Hopefully not in a nail biter again because I don't have enough whiskey for that. I can't do that. I can't do that for the rest of the playoffs. But if that ultimately is what leads it up to get into the World Series, then we'll do it. But mad props to super mad props to Cody Bellinger. Cody just he went out and did the thing. I didn't catch anything he just said on the postseason. I'm sorry, the post show over on Sportsnet LA because obviously I'm talking with you guys. But I hope that he this is his okay. I'm good. I'm still good. I still got it. I can still go out there and do the damn thing. I hope that's his moment, and just kind of everything starts clicking because he obviously he showed tonight. He's still a 5-tool player. None of that's gone. It's just in here, and for him to have done what he did tonight, as far as the catch, the bomb, even running as hard as he did on that ground out, he still had a bang play there at first, but he's still getting down the line like he's Cody Bellinger. So it's just a matter of getting in, getting out of your head and getting everything clicking, and that's exactly what's going on. But all in all, we won up 2-0, going into a clinching scenario tomorrow. Hopefully the Dodgers can clinch, and then we can have a celebratory, socially distant drink. Obviously, we can't pour alcohol on each other because neither can the players. But at the end of the day, they got the win, and here we are. Unfortunately, there's just more questions going into tomorrow than anyone would like. But if there's any roster, if there's any team, if there's any front office that I think that can sort it out on the fly, it's for sure the Dodgers. They have by far the best scouting in all of baseball. Major league, minors, etc. So this is why they invest all of that money into that front office staff, so we can get here, so we don't have to necessarily worry about that stuff. So again, we'll kind of see what happens. Again, I appreciate you guys asking questions on the Twitter machine. If you asked one and I didn't catch it tonight, I'm sorry. I'm pissed at Manny Machado, and that's my fault for taking it personal. But you know what? It's garbage. At the end of the day, it's garbage. And again, you may not agree with me, but I know at the end of the day, it was just not, that wasn't okay. It was garbage. But we got the win in your face. That's where it's at. And if he sees this, I'm sorry, man. That's just the reality of it. That was garbage. That was garbage. And as someone that's played the game, obviously not at your level, I can still say it's garbage, because if you want to play the game the right way, that's not the right way. So thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm probably going to have a hard time shutting the brain off. So I hope you don't do that. But thank you for tuning in. If you want to follow me, my Twitter handle is somewhere here. I don't know where it's somewhere. I'm left-handed, so everything gets thrown out of proportion on the computer screen. But my Twitter handle is @thebean818. If you have any questions, by all means, tweet at me, shoot me a DM. If you want to have more dialogue on how I feel about Manny Machado, by all means, reach out. I'm all open for it. Oh, one thing I did want to say, I got a DM yesterday asking me about my face, and why like it looks like it's like the way that it is, I guess. So I many years ago I got hit with a brick here, and ever since then I've had a little bit of nerve damage. But now as an adult, I have Bell's palsy. So I'm every once in a while, if I come on here, I might have like a flare up and my face might look a little weird. Don't worry, I'm not having a stroke. I found that out the hard way in Las Vegas, that I wasn't having a stroke. I was in the hospital for a little while. So thank you for the person that sent me that DM, saying that I should get it looked at. I have. I'm good. Every once in a while, I have a Bell's palsy flare up or anything like that. Haven't been hit with any bricks lately, so we're good. It's just one of those, from time to time it flares up. And it probably flared up a little more than usual tonight, because I'm the lead conductor of the Manny Machado Can Eat Garbage train tonight, because that was garbage. So thank you though for the DM asking about that. I appreciate the reaching out. But in the meantime, please be safe. Don't stress too hard tonight after that nail biter. And we appreciate you coming, following our page, following myself, watching this post-game show. And we love the interaction, love the Twitter, the YouTube comments and the Twitter interaction. So again, big thank you to you guys, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So seriously, thank you guys. You guys, we're all, this entire fan base is the best. Be safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.